All right, from New Era Field, the Buffalo Bills just wrapped up a few hours ago. A big come-from-behind win, fourth quarter comeback win. Josh Allen leads the charge. The Bills improved to 2-3 with the win over the Tennessee Titans. Heading into this game, they were a big underdog at home. First reactions, I mean, there were some experts, not many picking them. There were a few. What were your first reactions?
Well, first off, I'm not going to be so bold as to call myself an expert, but I did not pick the Bills to win this game. I may have picked them to cover. I don't know. The spread was big, or at least it was started off at 3, and I think in some places it was 5.5 or 6 at kickoff for the Titans. So a lot of money coming in on the Titans, and the Bills surprising a lot of folks today. I did think, though, that it was going to be very close because the Titans play those types of games, and they had just had a 9-6 game against Jacksonville a couple of weeks ago. Now, that's not to say that the Bills' defense is as stacked as Jacksonville's. Okay, now because so much has happened today, but I'm saying this as heading into the game, as I'm predicting. But I thought that the Bills' defense had played really well, and they'd given up only 1 touchdown to Aaron Rodgers last week at Lambeau Field. But, and this is where the asterisk is, I guess, because we see that Jacksonville's defense just got ripped up today by Kansas City. And the Bills still playing well. No touchdowns today for Tennessee, just 4 field goals, and they're able to pull it off. LaShawn McCoy getting involved was huge. Of course, takeaways were big, which was the case in Minneapolis when the Bills beat the Vikings. So if they can get if the defense can get their hands on the ball like they did today, then the Bills have a chance to win. Even if, and I'm looking at the numbers here, net yards passing only 79 yards passing, not as a team. That includes sacks. This was LaShawn McCoy. It was the classic game that I think Bills fans were expecting to see from them this year with their rookie quarterback, strong defense, strong running game, good special teams, and Stephen Hauschka being very reliable.
So I want to talk a lot about this defensive effort, but this is a quarterback-driven league. Let's start with Josh Allen. So I just put up a story, NewYorkUpstate.com, Syracuse.com. Head over there and check it out. By the way, I didn't mention it. This gentleman right here is putting up all his fine work at the Athletic Buffalo. Tell him a little bit about that.
Well, it's the Athletic Buffalo. You can follow me. My name's Tim Graham. You can follow me at by Tim Graham. That's BY Tim Graham, like a byline. And formerly of the Buffalo News. I've covered the NFL since 2007. Was at ESPN for a few years and make Buffalo my home. So now that I'm at the Athletic Buffalo, writing stories on a little bit of everything, not just the Bills, but as long as the season's going on and this team's interesting, I'll be here. And even though the game was ugly at times, it was an interesting game. There was a lot of interesting things. I thought that the nuance, like what was going to happen if they did need to kick a field goal or if they needed a big punt situation, they had an injured punter. What are they going to do? And that was all just kind of fascinating stuff to me.
And that was a weird development because the play itself was, I mean, I know you just finished a big story about this, so you've been kind of wrapping your head around all of this.
Yeah, I can rattle some numbers. 5 minutes and 3 seconds left in the second quarter, and the Bills line up for a 30-yard field goal. Corey Bojorquez, the rookie punter in only his 5th NFL game, decides that they were calling for a fake punt, and he picked up the ball for a fake, then realized nobody was going out for a route, so he put the ball back down. But by now Stephen Hauschka's mind is blown. He doesn't know what's going on, so Bojorquez scrambles, throws a pass that almost gets picked off. It was like Garo Yepremian in the Super Bowl game against Washington many years ago that you always see on Football Follies. He falls funny on his right arm and injures it. And although he's a left-footed punter, it didn't affect his drops because he drops with his left hand. We didn't know what it would mean for him to hold on field goals and extra points, and we didn't find out until the very last play of the game. So everybody's kind of holding their breath as to what's going to happen here, even though he was able to punt. So just a fascinating development, and it turned out to be something that came into play when the game was on the line.
So Josh Allen, I just put up a story, like I said, about what to make of this game, right? You have the first drive of the game, the fourth quarter comeback on the last drive of the game, and you take those two series, and it's like there's a lot of good things happening there. But then you take the middle portion of this, or the rest of this game, and there's a lot of, not so good things. I mean, there was some inaccuracies. I mean, even the balls, I wrote that I'm not even talking about the balls that he was putting at guys' feet. I feel like there's a delay when he finds this open target. There's a delay before he makes the decision to put it out there.
Yeah, and that's, I think, what led to a lot of those sacks last week when he was sacked 7 times in Green Bay. But I will say this about Josh Allen. He hasn't been precise. We're not talking about a Drew Brees or Chad Pennington or Bernie Kosar style of accuracy, pinpoint, where it doesn't matter. The guy's just ungodly type accuracy, like with those 3 guys I just mentioned. This guy is going to throw off the mark, and he needs his receivers to be able to adjust and handle that. Now, I'm not putting all the blame on him, but the interception, Andre Holmes, the ball was in his hands, and it was a really good play by Adoree Jackson, the defensive back, to get a hand like right in at the last second, tip it up in the air, and come up with the interception. So that wasn't as though Josh Allen threw a terrible pass. Mm-hmm. Some of these other balls that are down around the ground, you know what? I would love to see Kelvin Benjamin dive for a ball, maybe hit the ground, slide for a little bit. The guy barely bends over. It's almost as though if the ball isn't right on the money, he doesn't care to catch it. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to see the receivers that the Bills have come up with those receptions more than they do. Now, that said, it's not a talented receiving core, and that lends itself to Brandon Beane and what he has been able to put on the field or to have on the roster for the Bills. So
I've got a couple questions here. Botched field goal, we did talk about that.
Is this the way the Bills need to win? I think so. Yeah, and that goes to what I was saying earlier, defense and running the ball. Mm-hmm. And they need to be able to get the defense involved early somehow. Mm-hmm. Now, against Minnesota, it was strip sacks on 3rd down on each of the first 2 series for Kirk Cousins. Mm-hmm. You can't expect that on a weekly basis, but to be able, Jordan Poyer comes up with an interception today.
But even getting a stop,
or I'm sorry, Taron Johnson coming up with the interception there. It's they need big plays from their defense.
Mm-hmm. But you see today they get a turnover, like you said, but it's not even. Doesn't have to always be like that. I mean, I think you got to make stops. And if you look at that first series today, before that play happened, it was a 3rd and long, and they ended up giving up that first down, and that's what gets this defense into trouble. Right. So if those kind of plays they play good for 2, and then they give up a long 3rd down, that's a killer. So I think that they talked a lot about that over the course of the last 2 weeks. Guys like Lorenzo, Kyle Williams talking about getting out to a fast start. They did it today, and then they clamped down. But I will say, speaking of receivers making good catches, the Bills dodged a bullet there in the second half when Mr. Nick Williams dropped a surefire touchdown in the end zone. You talk about a guy that's probably not sleeping well tonight. That guy was a tough.
Here's a guy who has, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 touchdowns in his career, and he hasn't scored one in 3 years. This is a guy who probably isn't supposed to be in that situation. Mm-hmm. He is a journeyman player. But there he was, wide open, and it was a little bit of a scramble there for Mariota. He was running around, and Nick Williams did what he was supposed to do, found a soft spot in the defense, and it just so happened to be at the 2 or something like that, or right as he's heading into the end zone. Oh yeah, the Bills dodged a bullet there, and they're able to come back, and they probably shouldn't have won this game. Mm-hmm. And you can also say, well, sure, but they also should have had 3 points there at the end of the second quarter on Bajorquez's gaffe. But it's still the Titans didn't play a smart brand or a clean brand of football today. Mm-hmm.
So this defense is playing at a very high level. When they play like they did today, I feel like they're one of the top units in the league, especially considering you're talking about a secondary that's without their leader in Micah Hyde. They're starting basically a second-year undrafted free agent that got cut before the season in Ryan Lewis. Mm-hmm. Rookie middle linebacker Matt Milano's playing really well, but I think the story today for me, the defensive line gave a lot of credit to the secondary and the way that they played. But
Taron Johnson's been really
excellent too.
He's been really good.
But they're generating some pressure. They were good against the run today, and I thought that Jordan Phillips had a good game today in his first outing.
He did, and he brought a lot of attention to himself too. I was joking with Matthew Fairburn, who works at me at the Athletic, is the way Jordan Phillips was running around. It was almost like he was looking for the Bills team photographer. Like, hey, I need some Bills photos here. So he was celebrating and going crazy, but he had a nice tackle for a loss. He was really good against the run. Taron Johnson, just real quick, yes, he's been really good as that slot corner. I worry about him. It's now at least three times already this season he's come out of the game. Today he took himself out of the game with shoulder injury because the way he so aggressively tackles, he really leads with the shoulder, which is what you're supposed to do now. You're not supposed to do it with your head, but he really is, his shoulders are banged up, and we're only 5 games into the season. So it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully he can battle through that. If you're a Bills fan, you want to see him out there.
Obviously there was some, early on in the season, a bad start. I mean, that Baltimore game, 47 points, wasn't a great look for this defense, but you take the Minnesota game against the high-powered, Kirk Cousins-led offense, and then this game, Marcus Mariota put up 344 yards last week, so I almost feel like the process, the Sean McDermott model, the Brandon Beane model, is working on the defensive side of the ball, but there's still a lot of questions to be asked on the offensive side of the ball, and you talk about the receivers. I thought Charles Clay had a moment today. There was actually one play that I thought was really excellent. I noted it while watching the game from last week, Philadelphia Eagles. They had a lot of success, Carson Wentz did, going over the middle to his tight end, Zach Ertz. And I thought that there was one play specifically, Josh Allen whipped a nice quick drop, quick pass over the middle, 12-yard gain to Charles Clay.
Yep.
And I feel like
it's refreshing to see that too, because of what we're used to with Tyrod Taylor, never going across the middle. But yeah, to have Charles Clay make a crossing route and do that. Kroom was involved today. He had a reception, I think, 2 catches there. I'm looking at the stats, only 9 yards, but
he made one of those.
But it was a nice catch. Turned it into a 3rd and short, I think it was. But the game is a blur when you're right after the fact. But I like the way that Josh Allen moved the ball around to different guys. It's just not enough. The volume's not there. Today they didn't need to have it because LaShawn McCoy got going early. Even though he didn't finish with a ton of yards, he finishes with 85 yards, which is nice, but only 3.5 yards a carry. He did rip off a nice 16-yard run earlier in the game. So those are the type of things that even at the end of the game you look and you don't see these Bafo numbers. But those are the types of plays that if you can get them early in the game, the defense has to account for, as opposed to in games past where LaShawn McCoy has 4 carries at halftime and the Bills are trailing. Now, so what? You're not going to get to go ahead and give it to LaShawn McCoy now, is what the defense will tell you. We're just going to go ahead and take away the rest of it. It was also good to see Zay Jones get involved earlier today. Now, he disappeared for a good chunk of the middle of the game, but the Bills seemed to make it a point to get the ball to Zay Jones early after, I think, last week in Green Bay, he didn't have his first catch until there were 6 minutes left in the game.
All right, so Bills head on the road. Next 2 weeks, Houston, Indianapolis come back for the New England Patriots. What are your expectations here? It's kind of like in this weird, almost to the midpoint of the season. They're 2-3, but at times have played like the worst team in the NFL. Let's be honest. And so, if you're a Bills fan right now, and you're like looking at these next 2 games, and then New England coming back, where is this team heading into this?
It is weird, too, because they're playing this part of the schedule where it's not against the AFC East. So they're playing the NFC North and the AFC South, and that doesn't really tell you how you measure up yet. You need to play the divisional teams to find out how you measure, I think, mentally, because we're still learning how good the Packers are. The Packers seem to be a mystery.
Right.
Mason Crosby misses 5 kicks today. The Vikings, what are they? So the Bills playing against these teams, we don't really know. Baltimore, I think I don't know how they ended up. Did they lose to Cleveland today?
Cleveland came back 12-9.
So, what are these teams that they're playing? We seem to know or have a better grasp on the Jets, the Dolphins, the Patriots. And we still have to wait another 2-3 weeks until we get to see the Bills play. So they will have had half their schedule before they play their first division game. So you're asking me, I don't know. And I don't even think Sean McDermott knows. And this is a question that I've asked coaches over the years, and Bill Belichick talks about it. he says he doesn't know what his team's made of really until 2 months into the season, because you need to face adversity, put yourself in different situations where you are exposed, or you maybe learn some pleasant surprises about your team. So, yeah, the Bills at now 2-3, 2-3 compared to 1-4 is a huge difference. It's not just it feels like a huge difference, doesn't it? As opposed to just one game. You know, difference between 11-5 and 10-6 doesn't seem like a lot, but the difference between 2-3 and 1-4 for me feels a lot different. So they have a win at home. They know that they can beat good teams. They've beaten 2 good teams, but they're so inconsistent.
Definitely.
And let's see if they can find some consistency. If they can, then maybe they're a team that can keep things interesting into December.
So for all of your coverage, guys, Buffalo Bills, keep it locked on NYUpSyracuse.com. You can check out Tim Graham and the former NYUp.com Bills beat reporter Matthew Fairburn over at The Athletic. Also, your radio show is back for all your people in Buffalo. Check him out. It'll be going on in a few weeks, hopefully. The Tim Graham Show.
Yeah, Sports Radio 1270 The Fan. We started last week. It's Wednesdays, 4 to 6 p.m. Podcasts on iTunes and SoundCloud. So Matt Parrino is going to be a guest on upcoming.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. Facebook Live. Still getting the hang of all this. Had some people, had some comments. That's good. And you can also watch on YouTube because we're going to put it up on there. Thanks for joining me.
All right. Thanks for having me, bud.
Appreciate it.